All right, welcome back to another episode of the Black Bullion Show. Today, we are going to be talking about clean energy and its impacts on silver, and also why I think that the movement may not have the overarching impact that the proponents of it think it will have eventually. Now, I just made one big claim there, and I'll get that out of the way in the beginning, and then I will talk about silver. But of course, before we begin, please give the video a like, please subscribe, and when you like, you help to get this channel and its economic evangelism out there. If you don't want to watch the full video, check out the description, and you can find just a really quick synopsis of what I say in this video. Okay, so this article is called Clean Energy Could Get Americans Back to Work Post-Pandemic. Now, obviously, for those of us who are familiar with Rahm Emanuel, I think he was the chief of staff of Barack Obama, and then he became the mayor of Chicago. He was one of the ones to go on record in saying, you never let a good crisis go to waste. So obviously, there are going to be people who take advantage of this terrible time to push whatever plan they have, whether it's on the right side of the aisle or on the left side of the aisle. Um, so obviously, we've had proponents of clean energy for a long time, and there are some great things that come from it. Obviously, it's nice to diversify your energy, but long term, the overarching infrastructure change, the overarching change of just going completely away from fossil fuel just won't be suitable for most countries. And the reason why is because of war. Now, you may be scratching your head and wondering, war? Well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it has everything to do with it. If you go back to one of my first videos, I talk about the petrodollar. Now, without having to go all the way into the petrodollar, we can just go back to the beginning of World War One. Before World War One, when you had war, you didn't have to rely on heavy machinery. You had some machines, but it wasn't the kind of heavy machinery that we deal with today. World War One was one of the first wars that involved this kind of warfare. And in order to have this kind of machinery, you needed oil. And the people in the countries that did well in World War One were the countries that had access to oil. And guess who was the main exporter of oil and who became rich off of World War One? The United States. We actually shipped a lot of oil over to Britain and so on, and in exchange they gave us gold. So when people say countries make or war is big business, it is. And unfortunately, we've gotten to the point where we're just continuing to have these perpetual wars. And it's big business for people. But that aside, a country is not a country unless it can defend itself. And the only way you can defend yourself is to have some kind of military. And the only way you can have a military in modern day life is if you have access to fossil fuel to keep your heavy machinery going. Now, until we have planes or tanks or what have you that can run off of solar or wind or who knows kind of technology that comes out. But until that happens, then there's going to need to be a reliance on fossil fuel for most countries. And most countries won't be able to make that transition from fossil fuel to clean energy. Now, that out the way, let's say, for example, if some clean energy changes are made. Now, I don't care, hey, if we have a great way of diversifying our energy sources so we don't completely deplete our fossil fuel reserves and we use it for other things, that's fine. If we find a more efficient way to use clean energy for certain sectors in the economy, sounds great to me. We also have more jobs too. Now, this article was written by Justine Kalma, of The Verge. Now, before we get into this, she left her social media handle, Twitter handle here. So I kind of want to see what her background was or where she kind of stood on things. And if you couldn't guess, uh, first thing that she puts in her bio for Twitter is climate change, enviro justice. So you kind of know where she stands. Um, just to give you an idea of where this is going to go. And of course, there's the word science here. So let's go into it. I'm not going to give you and read the full thing, and but I am going to just read one paragraph from this because it gives you an idea of what um, one of the proponents of changing the infrastructure of the U.S. and providing more jobs, green energy, what his ideas are. Now, uh, a political economist at New College of Florida, Mark Paul, he's one of the co-authors of this new bill. And it's stimulus, and it's the $2 trillion green stimulus, and it aims to create millions of jobs by dramatically expanding renewable energy capacity and retooling the nation's infrastructure for the transition away from fossil fuels. Smaller plans have also grown at state and local levels. A petition coming out of New York, asks for $500 billion to help states with budget shortfalls and expand clean energy. Now, for those of us who are in the know and who are interested in precious metals, this is actually not a bad thing because we all know that if you're relying on solar, that means you're going to be relying on silver. So that's going to increase demand for silver, or it could be copper and some aluminum. But if you want that um, product, you're going to want to use silver. So silver is going to be in the equation somewhere. So we know us silver bugs are going to be happy if that does happen. Wind also has some silver in it as well. Nuclear too. But obviously, a lot of people are pushing solar. So we already know that that's going to be really good for us and increase industrial demand. And, um, for us, that's obviously going to increase the dollar price of silver, which is good. So, but even if that does happen, the one thing that we have to realize is that it's not going to necessarily have the legs that we want it to have because of the overarching realization that, hey, most countries aren't going to completely undo their infrastructure to implement some of these changes, but we would benefit from some of this just by sheer fact that there's going to be increased industrial demand. Now, one of the other things that a lot of these people, like maybe Justine Kalma, may not know is that in order to get the silver, you're going to need to mine the silver. And again, unless we have, backhoes and things like that that are able to dig in the ground and do all of that using solar and wind, then we're going to be using fossil fuel to get the raw materials in order to create these environmental, in order to create these solar panels, in order to create a lot of these things. You're going to need to get the natural resources somehow. And the way that we do that is with using tools that use fossil fuels. So we're going to need to solve for that if you really want to have this completely overarching infrastructure change. But then, even if that's the case, some proponents of environmental justice also don't like the fact that, hey, you're digging up stuff in the land and, we should be preserving that land. I'm a big fan of, conservation as well. But you also have to realize that there's a give and take. If you want your current existence, if you like your current existence the way it is, you have to understand that people are going to be digging in the ground. So there's a reality to your comfort, essentially, where you have to understand that, hey, if you want these things, you got to realize that people are going to be digging in the ground regardless. Um, but in general, even if this bill were to pass, this $2 trillion bill were to pass, this is a good thing for us for us in the silver space. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Sorry, my voice is just completely gone. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think that something like this could pass? Even if it does, will this be good for silver? What do you think about overarching changes in infrastructure due to clean energy? Do you think that's possible, even though countries, in order to pretty much have the ability to defend itself, they need to have fossil fuels? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thanks again for watching. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new. It's Black Bullion.